another year. You know what that means. It's another 12 months of crap to deal with. Whoop-de-doo! Happy New Year, everyone! Well, isn't this exciting and thrilling? But you know what else that means? It means we get another one of these. Another Guinness World Records Gamer Edition. This is the 2014 edition, which we just got. And we're gonna take a look at today, together. Here in this new year. So they've been doing these for a few years now, and if you've never seen one, never read one before, it's actually kind of neat the way they do it. They throw a bunch of different gaming facts and statistics and all kind of features and news stories, and they just pack them in here, almost like it's almost like a scrapbook of completely useless knowledge. But you know, lots of text boxes, and it's sort of a cluttered design, but it kind of makes it fun to just browse through. So here's an example of the kind of features that you can find in this thing. One of the first ones in the book this year is one on console generations, which is really cool. It sort of goes through each one, gives you the years and the best-selling console from each generation. Then it gives you a nice little rundown of that console generation, of its biggest games, of its biggest platforms. Kind of a neat thing. As usual, each of the current generation platforms gets its own little section, its own little sort of a state of the platform thing. Gives you what's going on with it, some of its hot new games, stuff like that. So here's the PS4, Xbox One, and you go on to handhelds and mobile, and then, oh, finally we get to the Wii U and other new systems. They give the Wii U a nice purple text box. That's real nice. You know, right next to the Ouya, and the Steam box and the Game Stick. The Game Stick has almost as much room as the Wii U, so that's, you know, that's real fair. So here's another feature, as well as an example of how the internet has affected print publications, which is to say, this is just a countdown. It's just a list. And there are a lot of these lists in this book, these list features. This one specifically, top 25 game developers, based on game rankings, review scores. So it's like aggregate review scores of their games. It ranks the top 25 most critically acclaimed developers. Bethesda, EA makes an appearance, Capcom. You know, Capcom used to be one of my favorite developers, particularly in like the 80s and early 90s. I loved Capcom. I still like Capcom. I'm a big fan of Capcom. I like that company too. Hey, I'm not gonna give too much away, but number one is Valve. The bulk of the book, really just what it does is it divides games by genre, and that gives you a bunch of fun facts on each of the sort of the biggest games in each genre. So it starts off with action adventure, and then you know, here's a list of the games that includes, that sort of entails. You got Grand Theft Auto, you got Assassin's Creed, you know, Resident Evil, as well as a whole bunch of like fun facts and stats about that series. So it's got, you know, first survival horror game, Resident Evil. So different records that each series has, as well as records within the games. So people who have the most kills on Resident Evil 6 and, you know, Resident Evil Revelations for different platforms, which is kind of cool. And then each one also has sort of a top 10 related to whatever franchise they're talking about. So here's the top 10 highest grossing movies based on video games, which are usually as good as games based on movies. That's a symbiotic relationship of suck on that one. And then you get to the shooter section, because, you know, gaming and America. There's Gears of War and Call of Duty. You get to Halo. Best-selling platformer of all time, the original Super Mario Brothers. 40 million copies between 1985 and 1995. That's ridiculous. Someone do the math on that. That's got to be like 10 copies a second for a decade. And here's a feature on the Great Gaming Crash of '83, which makes me chuckle that we call it that, the Great Gaming Crash of '83. You can put of and then an abbreviated year at the end of any event. It makes it sound like a really momentous historical occasion. The Great Gaming Crash of '83. And you know what? It was historical. Look at that. That's shattered glass on this poor family in the 80s, and they were having fun, you know, being greedy and participating in the new American economy of greed. And then what happened? Look, then the glass broke on their poor ColecoVision. What that's an American tragedy. Thanks a lot, E.T. But you know, as cool as some of the features are, you know, I really like a lot of the lists and countdowns. Some of them sort of miss the mark. You know, like this one's how to make a video game, and it sort of simplifies the planning and development process of how you actually make video games into like 10 easy steps. That's, you know, it's another list, but it's kind of ridiculous. I mean, this one strikes me as more like, it's more like filler. Like, look at this one. How to make money playing video games. Who makes money playing and talking about video games? That's ridiculous. You have to be a real loser to do that. Now this is kind of crazy. This is the 10 best-selling games ever. And what's crazy is that all 10 of them are Nintendo games. Look at this. Mario, Duck Hunt, Wii Play, Tetris, Pokemon, Wii Sports, Mario Kart, Mario Brothers, Wii Sports. This is ridiculous. Nintendo's doomed. What are you laughing at, dog? You're gonna be unemployed. And they also have pieces based on gaming culture and gamers themselves. Case in point, obviously here's a sociopath who murders video game characters and then skins them and wears their skin as a costume. Yeah, to be perfectly honest, I wouldn't go into any of these books expecting like super accurate figures or facts in any sense. Some of the sources are a little suspect. You know, it doesn't actually use NPD sales data for its sales records. A lot of times it uses like, you know, various gaming websites that sort of approximate game sales, and you know, so there's some suspect sources in here. It's not a lot of it is objective fact, but what it is it's a fun read. It's something you can, you know, sit on the couch with and sort of, you know, read, or take into other places in your house and read. Oh, I am learning a great deal about video games. But you know, I think the best thing about this book is that it's a great conversation starter. You know, you read through this with another, you know, gamer friend, and it's a great conversation starter, great point of debate. TJ and I were sort of debating some of the stuff in here and had a pretty good time doing it. So, you know, if you're looking for a book of like actual records of gaming performance, like high score in Donkey Kong and things like that, this doesn't have a ton of that, but what it does have is just lots of, just look at this, it's like a ridiculous, it's like someone took a fun fact cannon and just shot it at a tree, and this is what came out, you know? Lots of pieces of paper that have fun facts just strewn about them in text boxes. So the cannon also shot text boxes. It's the worst description of a book ever, but it's still good fun. It's the Guinness World Records 2014 Gamers Edition. And don't be worried about the Skylander guy on the cover. This is a book about video games.